Good morning, everybody. My name's Belinda Chapman. I'm the host of the Compassionate Women's Health Community group here in Facebook and Be Kinder to Yourself Therapy's YouTube channel. Today, I'm joined by Natalie Lynch. Welcome, Natalie.
Hello.
She's going to be sharing her practitioner story with us. So allow me to introduce Natalie more formally. So Natalie Lynch is a creativity expert and advocate for using art as therapy. She's based in Manly West in the suburb of Brisbane. She's a mother of two, a practicing artist, art therapist, and a bachelor qualified art teacher registered with the Art College of Teachers. Being a specialist teacher for almost 30 years in Queensland schools, teaching art to both primary and secondary school students, she has plenty of experience in supporting all types of learners as they explore strategies and skills that will nurture their mental health and develop their creativity. Combining her love of art with lessons learned from her real-life experiences, Natalie founded Studio Yellow in 2016, where she offers unique workshops, programs, and online courses for adults wanting to unlock their fears, discover their abilities, and find joy in every aspect of their lives. I'm really excited to hear more about this, Natalie. I think it's, as I was just saying to you before we came online, something's very funky going on with my computer here. In the group here, we've had many chats with women in that pure sort of women's health space that are either medical or physical or, about nutrition and diet. I love this approach where we're looking at such an important aspect of us, that creativity, that so many of us go, oh no, I'm not an artist, I'm not creative, I can't do that. So I'd love to hear some more, what is your modality and how does it work?
Well, as you said in the introduction, I'm a trained high school art teacher. I've worked also in a primary school, only teaching art to the students as a specialist art teacher. So that was probably the majority of my 10 years in high school, 20 years in the primary school setting. Mm-hmm. And so really art has always been a subject that I teach, and I follow curriculum and I give assessment and you write report comments and all that sort of thing, and assignments and exams and all of that. But art doesn't have to be that once you leave school. And I think a lot of people, well, everybody starts off loving art. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find a child that doesn't want to draw. But somewhere along the way, we stop. A lot of people stop. Some don't, but some do. And a lot do because they either have so many competing priorities. They love doing music, they love sport, they're good at science, they're good at all of these different things. Others do it because their parents say, oh, I know you love art, but it's not going to be a career. It's not going to bring you money. So choose this subject instead of that subject. So for a lot of reasons, I mean, sometimes it's just that somebody says, what on earth is that when you draw something? And that could be enough for a sensitive person to go, oh, I'm never drawing again, because they couldn't tell that was supposed to be a tree, Yeah. So there's lots of reasons. There's lots of art teachers out there that have a lot to answer to as well, who say to their students, oh, you've got no talent, or you'll never amount to anything. And I've heard all sorts of stories. So there's lots of reasons why we stop. But once we become independent adults, we can go back to it, and we should go back to it, because humans need creativity. Creativity is one of the skills we all need to survive in this world, especially because the world's changing so fast now. We need to be able to think fast and come up with creative solutions. So pursuing art as a hobby, not to become an exhibiting artist, not to, make a fortune out of selling your work, but just to keep our creative mind going. It's a really good hobby to have, and it's very, very good for your mental health. So, so that's why I've transitioned from, I teach very differently now to how I did when I was in a school, because now there's a whole lot of other reasons why I'm teaching, and art means a lot, is a lot different to me personally now than it was when I was teaching art. I mean, I always loved it as a kid, and I always loved it as a student in high school, But then once that you became an art teacher, it was more about teach to the curriculum.
Yes.
And art was just something I also did on holidays occasionally. When I had enough time, I'd do a little bit of drawing or something myself.
Yes. So tell me a little bit more about your own story then, and how it led to where you are now with the art therapy.
Well, unfortunately, the only reason I'm in business now is because tragically I lost my husband in 2009. And he was a very creative person too, but he had a very uncreative job. He was a draftsman, and he designed subdivisions, and he did lots of maths and lots of drainage calculations and that sort of stuff. But he was extremely creative, and he was very good at art at school. But his parents said, no, you can't do art. You know, you'll never earn a living out of that. Do something where you can earn money straight away. So he went into a cadetship and became a draftsman. But yeah, somewhere along the line, we were married for 22 years, together for about 27 years. Somewhere along the line, his mental health deteriorated. And for the last probably 18 months before he passed away, I knew there was something wrong, but never to the extent where I thought I would be widowed through suicide. So that was such a life-changing event where my whole world was just flipped upside down overnight, literally overnight.
Yeah.
And so, you know, a few years down the track, that's what led me to think, you know what, if I left the school system, I could be doing so much more for adults, because there are so many adults out there who are either lost artists, you know, people who loved it once, but they've got so busy that and then, you know, you go, oh yeah, I'll do art, but what am I going to do? I'm not really inspired, you know?
Yeah.
And then there's all those people who have just never had the opportunity to learn art properly, you know? And so I thought, yeah, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to start a business. That was my business plan. Well, I transitioned into it. I was part-time for a while in the school that I was in, and then I went into it full-time. But it's been the best thing I've ever done, because now I really am teaching what I want, how I want it, and I'm changing lives, because people are seeing that art is such a good way to nurture your mental health. And it's just good fun as well.
Oh, I can imagine. It sounds so fulfilling. I love it, Natalie. Like, that's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's well, it's fulfilling for me as the person presenting it, but it's also amazing the stories I hear from my clients where they just, you know, they're so tentative when they first arrive, because most of them are complete beginners, or some of them have got a lot of talent, but their mindset needs to be worked on, because they still say, oh, but I'm no good at this, or oh, I just copied that, or, you know, so you have to work on the whole person, not just teaching them skills, but giving them lots of ideas, and also showing them that it's not magic. It's not like you're born magic. I'm an artist. It's something you learn and practice and persevere with, and pick up hints and tips and tricks, and then put them all together, and gradually you find your thing that really floats your boat.
So tell me then, I'm hearing, you know, this concept is like a general sort of concept. Like, I've read books on or listened to podcasts on burnout, and there's these twins in America that talk about, you know, these ways to complete the stress cycle, and one of them is creativity. And they talk about, you know, you don't have to go and create a piece of art that's going to end up in a museum. It's just an outlet, whether that's music, singing, dancing, drawing, painting, sculpting, whatever that is, but having that creative outlet. So I appreciate how powerful it is in that context of, you know, completing the stress cycle. Have you come across women who you feel have really benefited from this? You know, how does this art therapy support women's health, do you feel?
Well, it was interesting. Just recently, this very busy lady working full-time, coming to a night class because she can't come during the day. She has always had an inkling that she'd like to try art. She's just been blown away by how meditative it is, how it just takes your mind completely away from what you've been doing. And she said she still does jogging and things like that as a way of escaping from how busy she is in life and how many decisions she has to make. But she said this is just on a completely different level. And I think that's when it changed for me too. When I was grieving, I mean, my goodness, overnight, I mean, I was worried about him before, but you don't expect this to happen. And when it does happen, not only are you devastated emotionally, but you're suddenly busier than you've ever been before, because you've now got to do everything yourself. You've got to, well, I had to move house the same week as well. So organize a funeral, move house. There was just every week, every day, there was more to do, more phone calls, more letters in the letterbox. This was 2009, so it was all coming in the mail. So I had piles of letters that had to be dealt with. And basically, as well, because it's a suicide death, there's all of this mind clutter of what could I have done? Should I have done? What if we'd said that? What if we'd done that? What if we'd made a different decision there? And you go back your entire life from when you first met. So the mind clutter was unbelievable. And one day, I know I was just lying on the bed in a mess and thought, I can't do this for another day. I'm exhausted just from crying. I'm dehydrated. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. Anyway, I got up and I just started doing a drawing on a piece of lino. And by the end of that day, I had drawn it, cut it, and printed because I just kept going. But it was a break. It was the first time since my husband had passed away where I had a break from all of the stuff that was in here, because you can't help but focus on, should I rub this bit out? Should I put more there? You know, you concentrate. And painting's the same. You go from thinking about all of this to thinking about, oh, I need to wash my brush. Oh, the water's turned red. And you just think about these little things that are not life-changing decisions that you're making about dipping the brush there or putting a bit there, but they still consume your mind, so that it gives your mind a break from all the other stuff. Because I found all this advice came through from everybody, you know, oh, look after yourself, go for a walk on the beach, take a massage, you need to take care of yourself. But I'd be lying on the massage table crying, or I'd be walking the dog crying, or I'd be on the beach just thinking about when I used to be on the beach with my husband. And so it wouldn't make any difference. My head still came with me everywhere I went. So whereas when you get into something like art, you really can get focused on it. It might take 5-10 minutes to really get into it. But the thing is, you could do it in just 5 or 10 minutes if you're a busy person. 10 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day. You know, it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be huge amount of time. You just need a little tiny book and just do another little thing every time.
Yeah, great advice. And it really is that, as you say, that escape, but a positive escape, like it's going towards that creativity and that focus and that beautiful outlet, rather than getting away from the thoughts or escaping the thoughts. It's going towards something really positive and beautiful.
Well, the techniques that I teach in my program is all about things that you could use in a journaling, or you could take them into a bigger artwork if you wanted to. But if you start journaling and you're keeping it all inside one little book, it's also very private. And it's a visual reminder of what you're thinking about. So yeah, if you want to feel better, you definitely think about doing like beautiful flowers instead of drawing all the doom and gloom that you've been thinking about. So it lifts your spirits instead of focusing more and more on the dark side. But it also just means that it's completely private. You work on it for as long or as little as you have time for. You can come back to it. You can work on it again in 3 days' time. You can come back in 10 years' time and do something else on that page. You can rip it out and burn it if you want to, but there's no judgment, because if it's in a book, it can be private and you don't have to show anyone. You can say, no, this is my diary. You're not allowed to look in my diary, just like you wouldn't read someone's written journal. You don't have to read their visual journal. And a visual journal can still have lots of words and descriptions in there if you want to, or it can purely just be, I feel like bright colors today, so I'm going to see what happens. So yeah, it's a really powerful way to get your hands busy, think about something else for a while, but also things can come out. If you do take the time to look at what you've created and analyze it, you can sort of see that, yeah, that might mean something else as well. And you can start to think about whether it is helping you just to process all the things that have happened. I mean, I often get drawn still to words in lyrics, in songs or quotes or things that just make me think, yeah, I felt like that too. And you can just write those words along the edge of a page that you've decorated, and it just captures it forever, but it's in a positive way because you've decorated it into the page instead of just plonking it in a notebook somewhere.
Yeah.
Or forgetting about it.
Yeah. So I'm hearing some of those therapeutic aspects are around that 100% focused in another world, you know, giving those that mental clutter a break, having an outlet for, or a way to sort of shift your perspective from the doom and gloom to, okay, let's bring some color into my day. Let's give my body another feeling for this moment. What are some of the other therapeutic aspects of art that you've found or you teach and bring into the work?
Well, it really is all of that mixed together. Some people call it active meditation because it's not about stopping you from thinking about things, but it's thinking about something else completely unrelated. And it also means you're not on a computer too, which for some people is a really good thing to just get away from screens altogether. And also, you know, I found when I was grieving too, I couldn't watch TV because nearly everything on TV reminded me of something and triggered me in some way. So it means that you're more in control of your environment as well. But the other side of it, I suppose, is the fact that it gives you something to be passionate and interested in. It makes you more interesting at parties, you know. Or what do you do? Oh, well, I love painting and I do a bit of printmaking on the side. And if you go to classes, you meet other people who feel the same way. So it does get you into a community where you basically, you can never run out of things to learn. You know, there's always another way of doing it or another media to try or a new set of felt pens that you need to buy, you know. And I just know in my lifetime anyway, I'll never be bored so long as, you know, my hands are still working. I've got so much I can do. In fact, saying that, one of my clients who started with me earlier this year, she had a terrible accident last year on a motorcycle, and now she's lost the whole use of one arm and one leg. So she uses a motorized wheelchair, and she's the most positive person I've ever met. Luckily, the arm that doesn't work is her right arm, and she's a left-hander. And she was just from the beginning saying, well, now I've got a really good excuse to go back to doing more art because that's about all she can do. So between all her surgeries and in and out of hospital that she's still enduring to try and make her body back to be in one piece, she's doing more art now than she ever did. So and there's always more that you can learn, that you'll never, you know, even the most accomplished painters in the National Gallery will say there's more that they can learn. So you'll never run out of things to explore and learn. And so that is exciting. And that's how it helps your mental health as well. It gives you that positive perspective that, you know, I can be walking the dog and I can see a horrible old feather lying on the ground. Some people wouldn't even notice it, but I'll pick it up and go, oh, that's a nice one. And I'll bring it home, and because it's, you know, or it might be a dead leaf with a hole bitten into it by an old bug. And instead of just thinking that's a dead leaf, I think that's better than a plain leaf because that one's got a really interesting little shape that comes in here. And so you see everything, you know, a dewdrop on a rose. You think, could I capture that if I tried to draw it? So it really does, I think, you know, there's so much doom and gloom in the world, and there's so many big political issues you can't solve as a single person, but you can look at the world around you and you can think this world's beautiful and I can do this. And if I can make my life better, then the next person I talk to, I'm more likely to greet with a smile instead of a growl. And then they're more likely to have a slightly better day than if I've just abused them because I had to wait in the checkout or something. And so you may not be able to change the world, but you can change this much, and then it has a ripple effect. And, you know, we can maybe change the world if we all had this positive outlook on life.
I love it. So in terms of how someone gets started in their mindset and, you know, shifting their experience from having been in the school classes, and as you say, you know, someone might have said, how about that, to, you know, learning it as an adult, like what's some advice you can give them to sort of go get started? What's that mindset to bring? And
Well, I would definitely start small. It's daunting to go and buy a $70 canvas and $150 worth of paints, and you only need a notebook, something with plain paper. It can be very small, so you can take it everywhere you go, like A5 size or even A6 size. You really only need a pencil or a pen. But working in a book means you don't end up with bits of paper all over the place. So you can see some progress. You can see that you can look back through what you've created. But it also, the biggest thing is, keeps it private, because I think the number one thing that stops people from doing art is that fear of judgment, that someone's going to say good or bad.
Yeah.
Like, I have people lean over my shoulder when I'm like on a beach sketching, and you think, who are you? Go away. And they just think they can come up and watch. And even if they go, oh, that's really good, if I don't think it's good, I go, well, do you know, that's a terrible drawing, so I won't even really take that on as, oh, I'm so good at drawing, if I don't think it's good myself. So most people don't do art because they think they're going to be judged positively or negatively. And so by keeping in a book, you keep it private, and you only have to show the page that you like. And if you really stuff it up, you can tear that page out, or you can glue 2 pages together, or you can paint over the top of it and disguise whatever it is.
Yeah.
So keeping it in a book, keeping it simple, copying whatever you see out there that you like, because people again think that it's bad to copy, it's bad to trace things, it's bad to, get your ideas from other places, but that's what we all copy things.
Yeah.
And that's a good place to start. And there is a quote that I've used a few times where it says, copy, 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 copy. And at the end of that copy, you'll find yourself.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you're the person who's still choosing that that's worth copying, but I don't really like that style, so I'm not going to copy that. And so gradually, you might find that you're copying flowers more than you're copying animals, or you're copying patterns more than you copy landscapes. And you gradually find out what you like the best. And some people love working in black and white. Some people love adding color. Some people have no idea about color theory, and so they come up with better color schemes because they're not trying to fit in with what's the right colors to put together. So it really is just get started. But if you are worried, keep it private in a little book, start small, and see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I love it. Amazing. So was there anything else that you would love to share with the members of the Compassionate Women's Health community today in this art therapy kind of context?
Well, probably the thing that I learnt from my experience is that you never know what someone else is thinking. So I really probably knew my husband more about him than any other person in the world, because I lived with him longer than his parents lived with him.
Yeah.
I knew him from, I was only 17 when I met him. So, and yet I didn't know what he was thinking. So my advice would be that you are the only person who can look after yourself. You're the only person who really knows what's going on in here. So you have to be careful to be aware of warning signs that are coming to say you're burning yourself out. You're ignoring a gift that you really wish you could pursue. You are, you can't just put everything off till one day, because one day may not come, because there are plenty of ways to go too soon too. So if you put it off and put it off and put it off and keep focusing on the things that may not be what you really want to be doing, you could be in trouble, because everyone's vulnerable. Your mental health, I'm not an anxious person. I'm not a person who's had mental health issues in the past, but I have experienced them through my grief. And some people then get stuck in that through grief, and other people have other mental health issues for whatever reason. But all through our marriage, we would talk about these statistics and say, gee, really? I never ever thought that would touch my life in any way. I never thought it would be part of my story. And I've gone over it 1,000 times. What could I have done? Should I have done? What more could I have done?
Yeah.
And really, nobody can do anything for you. Nobody can lose weight for you. Nobody can feed you, nobody, breathe for you. You're the only one who can do those things for yourself. So you're the one who has to really take a strong look at yourself and say, you know what, I have to slow down. I have to have a hobby. I have to take some time out. I love the quote that says self-care is not selfish. Self-care is not the same as selfish. And I think for women in particular, and I was one of these women, every time, like in the time of my life, it was like a chapter that's now been and gone, but a chapter where I was working full time, had a husband working for himself, self-employed. So that meant I did everything else. I was always the one cooking, doing the groceries, doing the cleaning, dropping the kids here, dropping the kids there, getting their baths and homework and everything done. And then sitting down at like 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock at night and starting your preparation and planning for school. And so I think women are very good at doing everything for everybody else, but they forget that the better way is for me to actually prioritize myself first, like the oxygen mask analogy, everyone's heard that in the airplane that, if you don't put your oxygen mask on yourself, you can't help the baby kind of thing. So we have to really take it seriously, because I think in the case of my husband, I'm pretty sure it snuck up on him. I didn't think he had mental health issues all our lives at all.
Yeah.
And yet who'd have thought? So, and the after effects are devastating. Like I'm about to, in December, I go to my daughter's wedding. I am terrified because it brings up everything again, because her father won't be walking to her down the aisle, and I'm the one who's got to not lose it at the wedding. And when my first granddaughter was born, the instant emotion was grief, not joy. It was joy, but grief as well, because it's so, when you don't look after your mental health and that happens, it affects every friend, every family member, and every milestone in the future. And I don't want to cause that for any of my friends and family. So I'm looking after my mental health and my physical and health as well. And my, you've got to balance it all. But mental health to me, if you're really fit and healthy in your body, which my husband was a black belt in karate, and he was doing lots of things right, but somewhere along the line, something else was missing.
It really gives a really strong kind of argument against the thought that doing something like art therapy would be so indulgent. I don't have time for that. But it's
absolutely
goes back to that self-care element, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And particularly for women, and particularly in times like this where we hear so much about the cost of living and, how, I really thought, I was a bit worried about my business for a while there, thinking, people won't have money to come to art classes, but it isn't an indulgence. It's as important as going to the doctor. It's as important as, and you don't have to do many art lessons. You might only need to do one. And you find that thing that really excites you, and then you can explore it further. So basically, sometimes I think I'm teaching too much in a lesson, because nearly every lesson that I teach to people could be a next 12 years of exploration follows it. But I like to introduce them to lots of things. The art mentoring program that I do is all about giving them variety, so that you might not be someone who likes collage, but you do like printmaking, or you might not be a very good drawer, but with a bit of tracing paper and some oil pastels, it's amazing what you can do. So there's so many fields to explore that I think people just need to remember, don't give up too soon. Try lots of different things before you go, art's not for me, because there's so many things out there, and even the difference between the brand of the pen that you buy could make the difference between how you feel while you're drawing on the paper.
Well, I can share even my own experience of art classes. I mean, obviously there was the stock standard high school where I wasn't appreciated. And when I had got to the point with my fertility journey where I was just like, all right, nothing that I've been doing has worked. I need to do something different. I actually took a few months off work and booked myself into classes at the art college in Windsor here in Brisbane for a term. And I think it was a whole semester actually. And so for that 3-4 months, I would go along to weekly acrylic paint classes. And that was the cycle that actually ended up working. So I was pretty much there for the first trimester of my cycle. So I had done the egg pickup, done the transfer, and then started the classes. And it was so beautiful to be in a space of expressing myself through art. And it did inspire me to buy some paints and try and do it at home. They're sitting out the front. I occasionally let my children dip into the box. But for me, at that point in my life, it was perfect. Tapping into an area that the science and engineering space in which I was working at the time didn't even touch.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
And that's the thing. Everybody's busy. You can't do it all the time. But at least you know it's there, and it's there when you need it. So if you can't sleep and it's 2 a.m. in the morning, you can quietly be doing something creative that is going to fill that space for you. I have a girlfriend who was diagnosed with breast cancer. And in that first week when she was just devastated and in hospital, I sat with her and we did just color in one of the art therapy coloring in books, the adult style coloring in books, and they're pretty beautiful designs. They're gorgeous. And then you add a bit of color to them, and it's meditative. You just have to stay inside the lines and pick what color to do next. And we were working on opposite pages. Luckily I'm left-handed, she's right-handed, so we were sort of both on a hospital table kind of working around each other. But it gives you something to focus on while you might be talking or not talking. But even something as simple as coloring in is still and that's such a change from when I was teaching children. I would say to parents at parent-teacher nights, don't let them have a colouring in book. That's not creative. And I'd say just give them plain paper, let them draw. And for little kids, I still believe that. But colouring in is therapeutic. It's for an adult who's busy, it forces you to slow down. It forces you to just think about, do I need green or blue? It just means that you just calm this all down and you focus on something. And even if it means you've got to set a timer because you've only got 15 minutes before you've got to go and pick somebody up or put the rice on or whatever it is, you set a timer, and for that short time, so long as you've got the AM and PM right on your phone, you can just go, right, I'm in the zone. I'm just going to concentrate on that. And even if you have kids everywhere, kids love it when you sit down and you draw with them. They absolutely love it when you let them, even if they've got their own page and you've got your page, but you sit together and you're a good role model for them then too, because you're modeling that when you're busy. I mean, I had a parent say to me once, don't know what you're doing with them. I was teaching after school classes for a little while, just when I first started the business, just to supplement the income. I went back to my original school and did some co-curricular art classes. And one of the mums there said, I don't know what you're doing, but I said to my daughter, how was your day today? And she said, terrible. I'm going upstairs to draw. So she was like, that's better than screaming and kicking and yelling at the whole family. So
getting onto YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. So so that's the thing. It is all I talk about now really is how beneficial art can be for you and how art really is for everybody, but then also art isn't for everybody to see. And I think we've grown up with, when you do a scribble when you're a kid, mum puts it on the fridge. And when you're in primary school, if they do fit in any art lessons, everybody in the class has to have their work up on display. And then in high school, their work has to be, you have to consider the audience that you're making this for, and you've got to have all this explanation go with it to explain how the audience will understand your work. But when you leave school, you don't need an audience. It's just you. So you just do it for you. And even if it means completely copying someone else's work exactly, doing it 20 times till you start to get it good at it, doesn't matter, because it's only for you. You're not going to sell it and claim it's your work. So just keep copying until you build your confidence.
Yeah, I love it. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Natalie. I really appreciate you sharing your time, your wisdom, and your advice around how people can really tap into their creativity as a way of de-stressing, relaxing, focusing, stepping out of the mind clutter, out of the craziness, and really take that time for themselves and their self-care.
Yeah, that's what it's all about now. We're free. Someone else said to me, there are no art police. There's no one around saying, oh, you can't do that and you shouldn't do it that way, and oh, you've done that wrong. So there's a law against doing it that way. There's no art police. Just go for it.
Well, particularly we're in a generation, we're in an era of disruption. So
yeah, no, it's fun to explore art materials and try new things. And yeah, the worst thing that you can do is that you waste a piece of paper, and that's not really a waste, because it was probably fun while you did it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. It's about how you feel while you're doing it, more than what it turns out like at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, all about the process.
Yes, so true. Amazing. Thank you again, Natalie. And we will pop, we'll tag you in the post and ask you to pop in the comments how people can work with you so that they can also access art therapy as a self-care and mental health management aspect in their lives as well. So
okay, no worries at all. Lovely to talk to you as well.
Thanks, Natalie.